Welcome to another Unscrewed Mind podcast highlight. In this episode, Rusty and I list out some of the positive side effects of a spiritual awakening. If you haven't listened to that podcast yet, I've got a link in the description below the video, so take some time and check that out. When I listen back to this episode of the podcast, what I hear is a lot of discussion about the negative side effects of a spiritual awakening, but we don't really touch on the positive ones. And so I thought, before we get into this YouTube highlight, that I would briefly touch on some of those positive side effects. As you go through your spiritual awakening, one of the first things that will happen is you will start observing the habits that are in your life. And you'll start asking some questions. Why am I watching so much television? Why am I overreacting to certain things that aren't really that serious? Why am I drinking so often? And as you start to notice these habits, you'll start removing the ones that are no longer positive and aren't moving you in the direction that you want to go. You'll also start to feel an increased sense of connection with your community, connection with nature, connection with maybe you have pets, connection to pets. You will start feeling kind of one with your environment, which is a great way to feel. Another thing that will happen is you'll start letting go of attachments, whether those are physical items that are in your life or whether they're ideals that you have about yourself. These things will start to fade away as you become one with your higher self. Probably the most positive side effect of a spiritual awakening is your newfound sense of inner peace. Even if things fall apart around you, you realize that in the grand scheme of things, it's just not that big of a deal, and it's just a great positive way to approach life. You're also going to notice a heightened sense of intuition and synchronicity. Rusty likes to tell a story about how he manifested a yellow Porsche into his vision not that long ago, but you just get this overwhelming sense that the universe is conspiring to make you successful, and all these little pieces start to fit together, which is an awesome feeling because you realize you don't have to do everything on your own, that there's an overwhelming power out there that is helping you succeed, even if you don't know like the necessary steps you need to take to get there. You also develop a more authentic sense of self. There's no need to conform to social norms anymore, and you are just more confident being you. And finally, your new inner peace, your new sense of self, your higher confidence just leads to a more positive and joyful life. So those are some positive side effects of a spiritual awakening. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you're the first one to know when we drop new content, and we'll see you on the next video.
But that's just some of the physical things. And we've definitely got some other things to talk about here that don't really, to me, I don't really see this as something that I was thinking about when I'm thinking about a spiritual awakening. I'm not, and it's losing friends. Like, if I'm spiritually awake, doesn't that mean that I've got more friends?
I think you have more friends, but maybe you just haven't. It's interesting to think about when you raise your vibration and you're in kind of your old environment. You're not the same person that built that environment, and then the people that are in that environment with you, they haven't changed, or they haven't raised their vibration like you had, and so you're having all these really conscious thoughts, and you're thinking in a different way now, and maybe you don't jive with the people that were in your group anymore. And I think that's kind of this is something that a lot of people are going to run into, is that you're having these new thoughts and these new experiences. But who do you share them with? Because it's possible that those people close to you may not believe what you're going through is real, or you may not feel comfortable enough to bring it up to them yet. And so I can see why one of the problems of a spiritual awakening could be your friends disappearing. But in the long term, maybe this is good for you. I mean, I've certainly had some some people that were in my life that probably weren't the best thing for me, maybe the best influence, or we were just together because we enjoyed doing something that probably wasn't good for us anyway. And so I think this is a good thing, but in the short term, it may seem like a bad thing.
And people are attracted to certain things about you in the beginning. So if you start, me for one, was somebody that had a lot of negative talking points, or, not necessarily just hardcore negative, but just wasn't necessarily looking for the positive of things.
Right.
And start talking about that kind of stuff and making a joke out of it. And I think you do it too, Matt. We both.
Oh, that was one of my favorite things about you, was just how sarcastic you could be, and like I enjoyed that part of your personality, and really like being sarcastic as well. And so bouncing that stuff off of you. It made for some hilarious commentary and conversations, but it's probably not healthy,
Oh man, that's something that I really haven't thought about, is our sarcasm is at a minimum pretty much, because we were, it's definitely not a positive feeling. I think that laughing is obviously important to anyone, but laughing about stuff that is negative is making you feel like that you need to be chasing a negative thought. And then other people are used to you acting that way. And then when you stop acting that way, they're like, okay, well, this isn't who I signed up to be around.
Right. And I think we may be getting a little off topic, but laughing at a joke that makes you feel superior to someone else is just, it just sounds bad when you put it that way, just sounds terrible.